Hello, hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith.
And I'm Augusto Pinaud.
And we're hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 122, How Productive is Joining Instagram Threads? And we're recording this on July 10th, 2023. Each week, Augusto and I cover the productivity news headlines of the week so you know what's going on in the world of personal productivity and its related technologies. And so with that, Augusto, let's get into our productivity headlines. What's our first productivity headline this week?
Well, our first article is 49 life lessons in 49 years of living. So happy birthday, Mike Vardy. And it's a short list, of 49 things, depending. Apparently, as you get older, 49 doesn't seem that long. But it is a 49 things that Mike Vardy has learned over life. And it was very interesting to read and to remember and to look one of those, some of those, regardless if you agree or disagree, and be reminded to put some of these things into perspective. I'm just going to read a couple. Always keep a book next to your TV remote. And in my case was a Kindle, and I always had a Kindle for years there. And now that I have kids, one of the best investments I have done as a parent is the Kindle, because they have it there, and it's the only device that they are allowed to take to bed. Not only that, I make this deal that any book that they finish, I will buy a new book without questioning. They don't even need to know to go anywhere. They don't need to do anything. They just need to go and get it. So that make them read really a lot, and a lot more than what they will read otherwise. So that's one of them. Don't forget to step back into nature, and that is one that it applies to me and that I need to remember, because I like what I do and I don't mind staying in the office, so I kind of stay indoors forever. It's one of those things that don't criticize your parents for what they do, because you will do the same. Guilty of charge. And the other one I'm going to mention is the number 30. Take ownership of your devices for day one. Be the master, not the other way around. And this is something that I love to do with people, and I love to work with people I understand not everybody has the time, the patience, the inclination to learn all the different intricacies of the devices that they use, even that I believe they should. But if you don't, then hire somebody who can sit with you and do that process and help you figure it out, how to do those things, how to get those things really that work for you and not for others. And finally, number 34, journaling is an underappreciated productivity practice. And I cannot agree with him more. I've been using Day One for the longest time as my journal app, and I'm very, very grateful to all the insight that is in there that I hope never read, and the ones that I have marked to revisit again.
Yeah, I'll say that for me, number 18 really struck a chord, which is about having a day when you don't have meetings on your schedule, so you can use that for flow work, for deep, generative, creative, problem-solving type work. And I know that when I did that, it really opened up the floodgates for me in terms of my ability to get more done in a week, when I just recognized that there were days of my week when I should just not have meetings because I need to get actual work done And it depends on how and what your manifested world looks like. But mine is one in which people can schedule directly into my calendar, which are clients, and then of course I have colleagues who also can schedule into my calendar. And so I need to basically block out the time ahead of schedule so that they don't get filled with time for me to be able to do that kind of flow work. That, of course, for me is generative, creative, problem-solving type work, and I want to be able to have that time kind of cordoned off from others. And I just, that one definitely struck a chord for me, and I think that it would help a lot of people to just know that that time is set aside for the work that needs to be done. All right, onward to our, again, happy birthday, Mike. And so on to our next article this week.
So our next article is from The Art of Nonconformity, and it's called "When in Doubt, Change Everything." And that article really is really a chord for me because I believe into this. Hey, if you don't like your location, move. If you don't like your office, redecorate. If you don't like, fill in the blanks, do. And he talks about his travel, and he said, you know what? I went to this city and I didn't like it. So I went to Croatia, didn't like it, moved to Vienna. Great. And I understand this looks for people like a luxury, but I remember two things early in life that marked me for that. One was Steve Levine from Lavender, who said, if you don't like a book, one of his rules in life is if you don't like a book past, I don't remember his percentage, it may have been 20%, stop reading. There's so many good books to waste time on a bad one. And that really is, stay with me. And the second one was actually David Allen, when in an interview, God knows how long, with Eric Mack, where Eric Mack said, one of the things that always impressed me of David Allen is that he could buy a gadget or a piece of technology, and as soon as he identified that thing doesn't work, dump it, regardless how much it costs. And those are two things that I have taken as part of my life. I have buy more gear and junk than I'm willing to recognize, and my accountant to appreciate. But is that if it doesn't work, I dump it. I don't have. If we go someplace and we don't like it, we go. Walk away. Make sure that whatever you do, whatever you are, is where you want to be. And as he said on the article, this skill is so important. Don't like your job? Change it. You can change it from the inside. You can move to a different company. Doesn't matter. But change it. One of the things that I love when I do coaching sometimes is help uncover that intrapreneur, as I called it, is not necessarily the people who say, you know what, no, I have 10 years, 20 years in this company. I don't want to leave the company, but I'm done. I'm done with this job, and help them really work into reinventing that. And that, again, I believe, I love the article, and it was a very fun read.
Fantastic. All right, on to our next article this week.
So the next article is from eTrader.U, and it's titled "Change the Way You See Yourself." And it's very important to understand what is on your world and how you see yourself, and because we don't notice it. We think that's normal. And one of the things I recommend people is sometimes have those self-conversations loudly. Don't do it on your mind. That's how you are used to. Start talking loudly. Yes, I understand if people see you talking by yourself, they will think you're crazy. But it's really worth it to do it, because you will discover how you really talk to yourself and how you see yourself on some stuff. So this was a very, very interesting article. I don't know what have you done to change the way you see, because of you see yourself, because over the years we've seen ourselves in certain things very high, and on certain things very low. And obviously don't change the high, change the low. But what have you done to change those things?
Yeah, for me, I think much of what I have done is using journaling, as you were talking about earlier, with regard to one of Mike's suggestions. Using journaling as a mechanism for identifying patterns of places where I don't feel fulfilled, seeing places where I feel like I am not living up to my own standards of excellence. So not necessarily arete, in the kind of Hellenistic, Greco Greek philosophical perspective, which is more virtue or excellence in the moralistic perspective. But I do have my own standards of excellence, and so I've enumerated those, right? I've listed those for myself, and they fit in each of my life domains, in life categories, and that's been incredibly helpful. And the article talks about this concept of hiring basically external accountability, right? And so I have peer support. So if we talk about accountability, self accountability steps up a level to individual one-to-one accountability, and then to group, and then to say larger group, or kind of public accountability, if you want to call it that. And so at that one-to-one accountability, you can hire a coach, life coach. You can hire an executive coach. You can hire any number of coaches to help you through particular things. A digital coach, all kinds of coaches. Obviously, having a therapist or a counselor, a mental health professional who can go ahead and help you and provide you that kind of guidance is also really helpful. I've done that, and I've benefited greatly from having a therapist. Just kind of walking through, like, okay, this is something I want to tackle in my life. How do I approach those things? And then, of course, having a wide variety and number of coaches, but also having that peer accountability. You, for example, just being able to talk with you as a friend and as a colleague. That's really helpful to me to be able to understand where I'm having deficits and where I can grow, and just talking those things out for me, as you are well aware, really helps me kind of understand where I am and where I need to go in the future, and that really helps with all of those kinds of self perception issues. So very, very useful practice, and I enjoyed the article for that reason as well. All right, on to our next article about a positive attitude and success.
The article was a good article. It covers why, understanding the power of that positive attitude, understanding, the connection and the possibility of success, how that positive attitude help you overcomes obstacles. But more importantly, it was a very good written article. But what I want to share is my own experience on this. I did not grow up as a person with a positive attitude. I live in a very negative one. I grow up in an environment where, the glass was empty. Didn't matter how much was on the glass, and how many things like that. So having to learn to change the radar, change my reticular system to look for these positive things, to change that attitude, to have a positive attitude, has really made a difference in my life, and has really allowed me to attract things that it will have been impossible, not for other reason that, hey, nobody wants to be with the black cloud guy, who walks with a black cloud around all the time. People prefer to be with a guy who has a sunny outcome in life. And I didn't understood that early in my life. Again, the normal thing was a black cloud. So it was a pattern that needed to be broken. For me to change and start paying attention to the good things and to the positive things. And it was, now it's normal, but it was not. So I want to invite anyone who is listening to us who feels that their attitude is not always this positive, to be encouraged that you can retrain yourself into change that radar from that negativity to a more positive attitude.
Yeah, that's great experiential learning that you're sharing, which is that if you keep a growth mindset, and you and I both have an affinity for Dr. Carol Dweck and her work around growth mindset. The hope for you is to be able to understand that it's the journey, not the destination. And so if you find yourself at a point where you feel like you are a particular way and need to move in a positive direction, a la your attitude, you're not fixed in that place. You can change, and if you believe it, then you can do it in a lot of ways. That's not always the case in a lot of other categories of life, but in this particular one, it very much is. If you can think positively and continue to think positively, you are retraining your brain in essence to do that. And so I just highly recommend that folks kind of consider that as they move their life forward, is to think, okay, if I'm stuck in a rut, if I am in a place where I'm thinking a lot of negative thoughts, it's like when you're driving and you hit a patch of ice, your car will go where you are looking. Your hands and your feet, all of those things that engage the vehicle will guide the car, looking at the oncoming. Your hands are going to turn you that way, and everything's going to happen in that wrong direction. But you're much, much likelier to steer out of the way of oncoming traffic and to get yourself onto the side of the side of the road, and safe, and so on and so forth, if you are looking in the direction in which you want to go. And so if you're looking down, you got to look up and start thinking. I remember, this is sort of funny. Just, this is a memory that comes back, and I'm tall, and so I've always just kind of looked down. It's just been the nature of my world. I think my mom's about 5'3". From the moment I hit puberty, not metaphorically, like literally. What I found was that it actually made me feel bad, because I would walk around then, like around town, and I grew up in New York City, and so I would walk around the city, and I would always have my head down, mostly because I was worried I would trip on people and hit people, or what. I just like, kind of gangly tall guy, and so I realized one day that I should just like hold my head up. I would feel better if I held my head up and kind of put my chest up a little bit. And remarkably, it changed my entire outlook on life. How just one little thing like that really changed the way in which I thought about myself, thought about how I carried myself in the world, and it brought a level of confidence that I think is really important. And so that positive attitude really had a lot to do with my ability to stand in a room and say something confidently. I've ultimately became a professional trainer, and I'm in this world where I'm capable of standing in front of large audiences, and I never really feel any sense of fear or anxiety. I think it has a lot to do with just that little thing, like, don't look down in any. I think it goes to show how powerful something like that can be. All right, so we have reached the not the midpoint, but we have reached the end of our productivity articles for this week. We are going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and then we'll come back and articles for the week and the rest.
While working in person may be normal for you, it's unlikely your coworkers are as interested in being productive as you are. Or working remotely or from home can be isolating, and there's something powerful about being with productive people, even virtually, that helps you be more engaged. If a flavor of these sounds familiar, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club is for you. Co-working Space is a virtual work community designed to help members be more effective and efficient in their work and personal lives. At its core, we provide goal tracking and host focused action sessions throughout the week for accountability and camaraderie. Visit anythingbutidle.com/coworking to learn more. Co-working Space lives inside Personal Productivity Club, a digital community for personal productivity enthusiasts, so you can find people who use methods and tools you do too. Again, head over to anythingbutidle.com/co-working to see how co-working space can help you be more productive. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anything But Idle. Augusto Pinaud and myself, Ray Sidney-Smith. We are going to get into our technology articles for this week. With that, Augusto, what is our first tech article for this week?
Oh, the first article is dedicated to you. You got me a call earlier last week asking for some of your apps being offloaded and why you had some space on your iPad that was unclaimed, and it's part of the concept of loading. So for our listeners in iOS, what they did was they offload, uninstall the application to reduce the space when you get to a certain threshold or the app is not used on a certain time. What the system does is uninstall the app, but leave all the content of the app. So that way you can install it and be exactly where you were. That is great. It's great. Allows you to save some space, but at the same time, you don't need to reconfigure the app if you need to download it again. That said, it will be awesome, and it's what this article is a wish list from Jason Snell and Dan Moran for 6colors. Is I really wish that I could mark certain apps as this app should not be offload no matter what. And this was one of those cases for you, but I saw the article and, I just wanted to not the only one who have this on your wish list.
Yeah, and there's an important piece about this, which is that, for example, iPad decided to offload my password manager because my password manager was not, I wasn't opening it. I was using it, right? But I was using it in other applications. And so since I hadn't opened it in a long time, it just decided that it was going to go ahead and offload it. And then I couldn't get into any of my applications, and I was like, "What is going on here? This is not right." So it would be nice to be able to kind of whitelist some applications and say these are off limits. Don't offload them that way. So I appreciate that wish list. All right, on to our next article this week.
This is a question that I get, or I have get multiple times. Hey, how can I not? Because the morning alarm. We're basically use the automation to create an alarm when you turn off your alarm. So basically you can go, let me give you the instructions, go to the shortcuts on iOS, okay, tap automation, and you can say, hey, create an alarm at this time every time I shut off the alarm. So that way, if you turn it off and say, okay, I'm ready to wake up in 2 minutes, and the next thing you know, it's 45. Not that has happened to any of us ever. Then this is a way, as the article say, take in consideration that even if you wake up, it will create this backup alarm. There are other ways to do it. That is to have already forever the backup alarm created. That's another way to do it and create multiple alarms. But this is a fantastic way if you want to have that backup plan. And again, it's something that people have asked multiple times. So I thought it was good to have it here on the articles.
Yeah, and there are other applications out there, things like Sleep Cycle and others that allow you to basically have an alarm that forces you to do, say, a math puzzle, or requires you to do other things, so that you can't just easily say that you're up. It really requires you to stay up for a little while. So by the time you've finished whatever the puzzle is, you're like, okay, well, I basically did Sudoku. I might as well get up. I've taken, at one point in my life, I don't do this now, but at one point I set the phone across the room, so I had to get up in order to be able to turn off the alarm. Unfortunately, on the latest version of Android, this is not iOS, but the latest version of Android, you can say the word stop out loud and it will stop the alarm.
Ooh.
And I do not like that because now you can just say stop and then it stops the alarm. And, I could do that I could do that half awake. You know what I mean? Like I could potentially and accidentally
half
do
awake.
that.
I can do that completely asleep. I don't understand why you need to half awake for that.
Right. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. So I'm sure there's got to be a way to turn that off. There really shouldn't be a feature there. But Yeah, so there are so many different applications that are out there that give you some of those additional capabilities. So maybe look around the App Store and look at some of those. I'm pretty sure Sleep Cycle does this, and it also will choose the right time to wake you so that you don't wake up in the middle of one of your phases of sleep that will cause you to be groggy and that kind of thing. That's really helpful when you're taking naps or just when you're waking up in the morning, because it's going to wake you up in the right period so that you're waking up and you're not going to go back to sleep very easily. All right, on to what's the best to-do list app. Oh my gosh, fisticuffs.
So this is the Plixie team, and obviously they compared the three apps that they connected to. Okay, that is Microsoft To Do, Google Task, and Todoist, and they went and did a comparison. It was reasonably fair. At the end of the article, before the conclusion, they have a comparison table, and you could see, up to what level, they do the same, and then Microsoft To Do still can do comments and attachment, where Google Task cannot. And then labels and filters is something that only Todoist do. I think you need premium for those, but no, that's not true. You can do filters and even on the free version. So that was a great comparison. I add to that comparison Nusby, well, because I am, part of their expert, certified expert group, and you could do also with the premium version, everything that it's mentioned and Todoist. The reason Plixie, put these three is because they are the three things that they do. What Plixie will do fantastically well is will integrate these three with Asana, with Trello, with many others. So it will allows you to integrate the input. So in my case, there are certain projects that I work with external companies that are living in Trello or Asana, and I can now pull them out and integrate them into my own platform, make the changes, and everything gets reflected everywhere without me needing to necessarily go and work into the other platforms. So it's an interesting article if you have been curious. We have a Todoist user group in Personal Productivity Club. And so if you are interested and learn more, come, leave us a question and a comment and interact if you are a Todoist. There is currently not a Google Task or Microsoft To Do user group, but if you are a user of those two and you're interested, please contact us because we will help set you up so there is others that can benefit from your knowledge.
Yeah, and just like to give context for folks, the reason you would want to do this is say that you're like Augusto and I, we work with a number of different people in a number of different environments. And so they may be in Asana or Trello or another tool, but you still want to track and maintain your tasks in your own system. This is why Plixie would be of use to you, right? So if you have a client who's using Asana and they're going to assign you things in Asana, but you're not going to check into Asana every day, then Plixie can grab those and keep them synchronized in your Todoist system, and therefore you're not losing or dropping the ball on these kinds of things. So I just think that it's a remarkable tool. I think that, and I wish that more tools integrated or had integrations like this. I hope that Plixie and their competitor Unido continues to expand the tools that they integrate with, because it's very different than say Zapier or Ift or others. I've said this before, but that's a step-based tool, right? It's a workflow, so it's moving in one direction only. It's not synchronizing, and the beauty of Plixie and Unido is that is a synchronization. The data is flowing back and forth in not near real time, so that you're not losing that kind of fluidity in the application. But to Augusto's point, absolutely. If you're looking for a Microsoft group or something like that in Personal Productivity Club, let us know. We can probably figure out a way to support that group in the system. And I definitely have plans to create a Google group. So we will ultimately have a Google user group where we can talk about all the workspace productivity things in there. So not yet there, but we can certainly create that. We will certainly be creating that in the future. All right, Augusto, next up.
Okay, our last is a video, from Laura Ernest, and she's talking about how she create a OneNote book journal. She said that she reads a lot of books, 6 to 15 books a month, and she wants to keep track of that. What to read, what and that's happened. I don't read as many, but I read, also a significant number. And sometimes, you want to go back and, you remember, okay, where that I read this thing? And one of the things I tend to do is to take screenshots and send them to Evernote, okay? Because then in Evernote, because of the indexing, I can type, I don't know, productivity, and it will bring me all the books, highlights that I have done that has the word productivity. So her approach to this is using OneNote, and she praised OneNote for this, and she do, the books, what was her qualification, and then she go and make a little abstract of what her reading was, so she can refer to that later. And having those kind of reference are very, very, very powerful. It doesn't matter. You don't need to get, I have said this many times, you don't need to get every detail from the book, but it's important that you are able to recall and find those that were very critical, because you may not apply it today, but it will come a time and say, okay, I read this in a book where, and there is nothing more frustrating than being unable to get that where.
I have definitely been there. And so a few Evernote certified experts, inclusive of myself, at one point created a template for book summaries within Evernote. And so if it's not in the Evernote templates gallery, feel free to reach out and I can send you a link to it. But it basically is a structured template that walks you through putting in notes into it. I also use clippings.io, which is a connection between Amazon Kindle and in my case, Evernote. I think it works with other tools as well. And so when I highlight and make annotations of things on my Kindle, it automatically grabs those annotations and grabs those highlights and plops them into a pre-formatted note in Evernote, which is super helpful for me. So it's doing that on an automated basis. And then what I do is I go, once a month, I go through, and everything that I've read, I basically copy it into my own book summary note so that it's in line with all of my other notes that I've taken in that space. Because I, like you, Augusto, I will typically take a screenshot or use my phone and take a photograph, and then I might mark it up by hand, throw it into GoodNotes, probably, write some things on it. I want all of that ultimately in the same note in Evernote. Now, if I've read the complete book in the Kindle and I've done all my highlighting and annotations on the Kindle, then all I need to do is grab the clippings note and copy it into my book summary, and I'm pretty much good to go. So there are different ways in which you can manifest that, but it's helpful for me to have that all centralized in my own reading notebook, so that I can go back and reference, like you. Man, it really frustrates me when I can't remember where I read something and trying to share it with someone, or especially it's like really good quotations that I've cataloged over time. I'm like, oh, this is the perfect quotation for this article I'm writing, or whatever it might be, and wanting to find that. So definitely worth doing if you're doing a lot of that work. Okay, onward to our next article.
Well, our next Galaxy Unpack, July 26th, apparently it's going to be very focused on gold, and they are coming again with more devices. I'm surprised that by now they have not leaked more of them, but apparently, but they at least leaked the event. So if you are a Samsung or looking into a flip phone or the technology per se, July 26th, we will cover the news on the show, after the event.
Fantastic. Okay, onward to our next article.
Our next two articles are about Google Calendar. Google Calendar is getting a big upgrade that will for tablets for Google Calendar. So I don't use Google Calendar on my tablets. I use just a regular calendar app, but you use Google Calendar quite often. So maybe you can share more the advantages of this too. I didn't see anything, I mean, the fact that I can share easier in events was one of them, but again, I don't use it very much, so I didn't see, any major things other than that.
And major upgrade in terms of features is that you're going to be able to take an individual event link and share that, which is, I mean, it's very powerful, right? If you think about it, to date, if you wanted to share an event, you had to invite the person via an email address, and sometimes you're in a chat, like you're in a WhatsApp chat with the person, or in your Telegram. Now you can just literally copy the link, share it via Telegram, and now they are opening up a calendar event. And now they have the ability to, download the ICS, add themselves to the event, see the details of the event. And this happens many times when people are like, I'm supposed to be going to this event, but I don't know where I'm supposed to be going because you didn't send me the address. And so you could just like literally copy your own event link and now text it to them. They can open it up and they see the address and kind of go from there. So that's the thing that I think is probably the most powerful piece that allows you to be able to go ahead and utilize the tool. Some of the other pieces are just kind of like dealing with the process of sharing within calendar events is being upgraded. That will be really nice. And we're going to see more of the material perspective brought into the application over time as well. So we'll see how that all kind of plays out as they make it more available. But I think just the inviting people part to events not being as clunky as it and fit folks. I mean, how they're inviting people and whether they've invited people. So that's going to be cleaned up in the new version. Plus, we're going to see a whole new redesign of the tablets and Chromebooks apps. So everything seen in Google Calendar, you're going to see basically it updated and where you're seeing it on the mobile apps today. And so it's going to definitely be I think, a cleaner view where you're actually capable of seeing a little bit more deep data and just seeing it in a two-panel perspective cleaner. I think the two-panel view is going to be cleaner, and you're going to have the options between schedule, day, week, and month, so that you can just open up those sidebars and see those things without having too much of an issue. So I think it's going to be a nice refresh of the app, and folks are going to like it. Okay, so on to our next article this week.
So our next article this week is another how-to is how to convert editable text using Microsoft Word. So if you get an image, okay, let's say a book, you can put it into Microsoft Word, and you will follow the instructions, convert it into a PDF, and then open that PDF directly from PDF into Word, and that will make them an editable image, and the text and everything else you will be able to grab. So it is an interesting workaround to convert images with the tools that you have on hand. So it is very easy to do and very interesting. So if you are looking to do some of those, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that the features are available, and I didn't actually even know that this was available, and so I'm really glad to know that it is. All right,
on to our next article. I don't use Microsoft Word that much, but yes. So our next one is again another Instructable. Okay, make your own printable calendar using Canva, and there is people who like that the calendars, the printable calendar in the wall, especially for big rocks. You don't need to have the detail, but those big things. Hey, I mean, I remember when I used to travel a lot, I wanted to know, when I was in Los Angeles and when I was not in Los Angeles, and that was very important. I needed to know that, since my life happened basically in 4 cities, it was very easy. I have 4 colors. So I could look at the wall and see the line of the colors and knew where I was. But it was very useful to have that and just refresh the page and print it again. So you can use Canva to print that, follow the instructions, and you will be able to get that very, very easily.
And just so folks know, there's an additional facility that you can actually have things push to print on demand by Canva. So it's another opportunity for you to be able to give them money in essence. But the idea here is that if you don't want to deal with the printing of the calendar yourself, you want it to be printed and bound and whatever else, they have a whole printing service. So if you have like an annual report you put together and you want to have it printed, well, and shipped to you, they can do that for you, which is pretty brilliant. That it's just kind of built into the platform. And so if you need printed materials, you can kind of have it printed on demand through the system.
Yeah, there is a bunch of services that do that, and I'm going to sidetrack in here, but they want to do the same thing, as we were talking about journaling much earlier, where you can say, okay, print my 2022 journal, and then it will bound it for you and send you now a paper copy of all your journal entries of 2022.
Does it include the images as well that you might embed inside of?
It does.
Oh, that's nice.
It does.
That's
so
nice.
I know people who put the images in there with the notes and stuff that they want to remember. And because you can, depending on the plan you have, you can create different journals. Then they have, journals for those purposes, and then they print those journals instead of everything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know Google Photos has the ability for you to print on-demand photo books like that as well, and I've done that for a couple of vacations where I wanted to just have a photo book to give to at that time the in-laws, and so it was nice to just be able to say, okay, this album, turn it into a photo book, and then it's a printed nicely bound item that you can just give away as a gift. So easy gifts when you have the photographs in one space. Okay, on to our next article.
So our next is how to migrate, I will say save, post your Facebook post and media to Google Docs and Google Photo. And it is interesting because this is with a lot of things that happen with Facebook and Meta, there is a lot of people looking, not necessarily to the post, but to the pictures. Because there was a time where people upload pictures, and there's a lot of memories in Facebook that now are only in Facebook. So this Instructable will give you or show you how to extract those media into Google Photos so you can save them for the posterity.
Yes, and so folks have an awareness. You can transfer photos to just several major platforms. Google Photos is one of them. Dropbox is another, and they have a couple of other platforms where you can export your photos and videos to those specific platforms. And so I've already done that. I've taken all of my Google Photos and just exported them to Facebook, just so that I have a backup, because whatever happens to Meta happens to Meta. I want to make sure that I still have those memories saved to my system. Now, most of them are duplicated because it's not like I took the photograph in Facebook. I took the photograph usually on my phone or in a camera, and then I've uploaded it to Facebook. But it was still nice having the backup there as an additional backup in that sense. But you can do it, which is really nice. All right, on to our next article.
So our next one is talking about early Prime Days. Prime Days is coming, and obviously the Kindles will come. The Kindle 8 now. The Kindle Fire HD 8 is going to be discontinued, and Amazon is going to try to move whatever inventory they have. But they're making a decent Kindle tablet for, I think it was $59. I mean, I think it is so cheap, really, on that for what the tablet is. I understand it's not a powerful tablet. I get it. Okay. But for a colored Kindle where you can watch Prime and Netflix and all that, you are not going to find a cheaper TV than that. So they also have some offers into the Kindle Paperwhite, Kids editions, and other stuff. So if you are looking, to excuse to get a new Kindle, this may be a great time for that.
Yeah, so just for folks who are unaware, Prime Day runs from July 11th to July 12th. So if you're listening to the podcast after this, today, for example, if you're once the podcast goes out in the feed, it'll be July 11th. So Prime Day will be in full swing, but that doesn't mean that they don't have early deals. And if you're listening to this in real time here on July 10th, Target has already put out Circle Week, sales to get ahead of the game. I'm sure that Walmart and the others are trying to do their own thing as well to kind of get ahead of it. But there are some early Prime deals, across the board. So I would highly recommend going to the New York Times to Wirecutter and look at the early Prime Day deals, because if you were going to buy something anyway, don't buy it because it's a deal, right? That's not a deal. That's a waste of money. But if you were going to buy something anyway, and it's here on the list, a lot of the Amazon and Amazon owned companies are going to have Amazon owned product lines are going to have really good deals. But there's some really interesting deals outside of that. There are a couple of air purifier deals on here. So if you wanted to get an air purifier, there's some mattresses, all kinds of fun things that are out there. If you love Legos, there's some Lego deals. So there's some really good deals out there if you're going to buy those things in the first place. But Prime Day is a pretty good sales day if you were already going to buy those things. Okay, on to our next article.
And if you need a temptation to buy a Kindle Scribe, this next article may be the temptation that you were needing. So there is a new update for it. Now you can do pen style, sticky note, on-page writing, lasso, contrast slider, and subfolders. So that will allow you to do folder inside of the folders. And, again, I said this was Amazon announced the Scribe. I thought it was going to be a very, very interesting device because it's going to make notes into the hands, or digital notes into the hands of everybody. And so far, Amazon has not disappointed me. Yeah, they have made this device Amazon style. It doesn't do everything, but whatever it's doing, and they've been adding little by little and making this thing more and more powerful. And it's a matter of time for this thing that I don't need to be into my arsenal of devices.
I have to say, I own a Kindle Scribe, and I use it every day now. It has become definitely a daily driver for reading, for being able to just take quick notes. I keep it here on the side of my table, side of my desk, and it's there for just taking a quick jot of capture items that I can't do because I'm in a meeting with a client, and whatever's going on, I want to still just be able to capture it. It's a single click button, and with a stylus, I can just quickly jot it down. I leave that page open so that I can do that. I just click a single button, screen comes on, I take down what is the open loop, and I capture it into the system, and then I know after the meeting to go ahead and process those items. Sometimes I'll sit down and I'll actually take notes in the Scribe, and then after the meeting, I'll look at the notes that I've taken and then type them into Evernote so that they're in the final note as well. But the ability to go ahead and just open up any book and write on the actual Kindle book is incredibly helpful. Being able to do that kind of annotation live, I just find to be just incredible. Like, it's just so helpful. I really like it, and so Amazon has really, I think, knocked it out of the park with the Kindle Scribe, because it's not super powerful, right? It's not something that I want to start doing computing on, but it is all the things that I want a tablet to do in that very dumb sense, right? Like, I don't want it to be good notes, right? I don't want it to be converting text into handwritten text into typewritten text. I'm not trying to do anything sophisticated with it. I just want it to be kind of like one of those boogie boards, but a little smarter, right? It's like, it's just got just enough feature. So, right, it's like, it's just feature rich enough that it's going to remember what I just wrote in it and not delete it like the boogie board would. And so it's got just that little extra oomph that I really like and enjoy. Okay, on to our next article.
And this is our old article. So now we're going to the tools of the week.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So, as you all know, in New Tools of the Week, Augusto and I come across many personal productivity apps and tools and services. We each bring you you might like. Actually bringing a competitor to a prior tool that I talked about back in June, but I've been playing around with all of these various browsers. So This particular browser, and I hope I haven't talked about it before, but if I have, oh well, it's just as good. So the browser is called Sidekick, and you can go to meetsidekick.com. And Sidekick is it's a web browser. I mean, that's its core functionality, except that it's provided this additional overlay, just like Wavebox, these productivity tools. So you have a left-hand sidebar. We're back now. And so you have the left-hand sidebar, and you have all of your apps, and whether it's Notion and Gmail and all of the other various tools, you're capable of having all of those in there. Now, the idea is that you can open up them in your own sidebar or as kind of a full-size web app. Now, there's two killer features that I really like here. One is that akin to Wavebox, you can use Chrome extensions. So because it's Chromium based, it's Chrome based, you're capable of adding extensions in there. So you're utilizing those applications kind of in a web browser, but you're also extending the applications that you can't do if you installed Notion on the desktop or Slack on your desktop. You're not going to be able to utilize those Chrome extensions on those applications. So you can extend the power of Slack directly there inside of Sidekick. The other piece is that the sidebar gives you quick access to, say you have Todoist. Well, you can have your Todoist side panel, and now you have your tasks right there next to your Gmail, and now you're capable of seeing both of those things. So as you're reading an email, you can capture an action that needs to be taken care of right there in the sidebar. So it gives you a pretty powerful ability to kind of toggle between those items. But the thing that I like most about Sidekick so far, and I've been playing around with a lot of these tools recently, is the ability to go into focus mode. And so focus mode basically allows you to go in and say, hey, I don't want to deal with these things right now. And you can just go into focus mode, and whatever tool or app you're in kind of grays out everything else and limits the notifications being sent to you around all of the other apps that you're in. So you're kind of drawn into laser focused on the thing that you're working on, as opposed to all the other things that can bing and ding and distract you from what you've been working on. So I like Sidekick so far. There is a free version, so you can use that free version forever, and it's then you can upgrade to Pro and whatever else. But it's available cross-platform, so you can get them on all the various platforms, and you can go ahead and create what are called sessions. So sessions kind of group together all of the things. Oh, one of the other features that I really love about it is it has a universal search. So you can go ahead and just, whatever it is, Command or Control F, and it'll open up kind of like Spotlight on the Mac OS operating system, or iOS operating systems too. You kind of open up Spotlight, and you can search across all of your apps. So you can search, across Notion and all. So it gives you that kind of centralized search capability that is really, really helpful, which I really like. So you can search across LinkedIn and Telegram and all of the different applications that are connected inside of Sidekick. So it's a pretty strong and powerful way to search across your apps, tabs, documents, and workspaces. So something you might want to check out in terms of if you're looking for a productivity browser specifically for work. This can be really useful. Augusto, what is your tool this week?
So I will start with a story before I go to my tool. And the story was a client of mine who is getting old, okay, as happened to many, and his main device is the phone. And he's starting to get to the point where typing on the phone, he cannot do it as fast as he wish. So that was part of the reason of the consultation with me. And we found ways to get dictation get to him to work. But the dictation works great, if you use the Google keyboard or Siri, if you're doing something short, okay? If you are doing, hey, Ray, call me back, okay? Those things work great. When you now want to go and do a much longer dictation, when you want to write a document, those not necessarily are the best tools. And this was the issue in here was, that's the main device. The main device is the phone. And he needed to be again that productive. He is losing that productivity. So we play into many other things with Nuance Dragon Anywhere. Nuance, it's been doing transcription software for years of years of years, and their version for the iOS is very powerful. You can do it on device and go and basically dictate will do the translation right there, and it works great. Another option is Otter. You record the audio, okay, and Otter will do it for you. But in this case, Nuance Dragon Anywhere was the choice that this client picked, and it was fantastic to see him go back to that productivity on the phone. The issue was, again, he cannot. He said, I used to be able to type for hours on this phone. I cannot do that anymore. I get tired. I cannot see properly. Instead, he can put the phone in there, get his AirPod, and dictate the rest of his life and be very, very happy. So that's the tool of the week, Nuance Dragon Anywhere for iOS. It works on the phone and the iPad.
Fantastic. And moving on from new tools of the week, we are now going to head into our featured story this week, which is that Instagram has launched a competitor to Twitter called Threads. And so what do you think about Threads, Augusto?
Well, if you don't care about privacy and you don't care, if you don't care about privacy, it's a great tool. I haven't played with it because I like my privacy. And when an application starts saying we may need, the privacy laws in Europe are way more strict than the United States. We know that. And when Meta and Threads said, oh, well, it's going to be some months for us to get to UA because of the privacy issues, that was enough, a red flag for me to say, not testing. Okay. So, but still, it is the application. I get there is so many people still living on Facebook that are okay with their privacy and the way Facebook handle it. So it's an alternative to Twitter. Sadly, Twitter was a great platform, and lately it's been imploding by their own management. So we don't know what's going to happen with Twitter. One of the articles we have in there is Twitter warns that they are going to sue, Meta. Great, do it. And I don't know what is going to be out of that. The concept of that kind of communication as Threads, as Twitter, is something that really gets my attention. But I also want to make sure that if we are doing microblogging, we do it in a way that is okay. There is some privacy issues there that I want to have. Microblogging to just give more content to Mr. Zuckerberg is not something that is on my interest. And that's all that I'm going to say out of my soapbox.
Yeah, so I just want to talk through a couple of things here. One, Threads is embedded with Instagram. So folks who are not on Instagram, you're going to be forced onto Instagram in order to be able to create a Threads account. It is bound to your Threads account. This may be kind of hidden, but you can have multiple accounts in the same Threads app. And there's a link in the articles I'm pretty sure we put in there that leads you to how to set up multiple accounts. So if you have multiple Instagram accounts that you want to have in Threads, you can do that. And so there are some privacy issues with regard to Threads. It is trying to collect more data than before, but that's a reality factor. And so I have joined Threads just to see what it's all about. And I think that it's still nascent, but I will also say there's two things that are really important here. And then I'll talk about the productivity implications, which is really where we should be focusing. But one is that Threads is the fastest growing social network in history. It's at 100 million users after 5 days. That is remarkable, and it's a testament to obviously Meta and its power of attracting people. And Twitter would love to have that kind of growth on their platform, and I hope it is sending a message. I don't care one way or another about Elon Musk, but I hope it's sending a message to the Twitter leadership team, including Musk, that the way in which Twitter is going is not the right way. That obviously so many people are flocking to Threads in this way. Two is that they are embracing the open source ActivityPub protocol, which means that you don't need to join Threads. As soon as Threads is actively integrating with ActivityPub, you can join any part of the Fediverse that also is ActivityPub, and you will be able to have an account that interacts with those threads. So that is just, and you may not capture the scope of it, but it's very, very powerful that it is integrating with an open source platform. And I give great credit. I can't believe I'm saying this. I give great credit to Meta for choosing to do this. It may be Instagram specifically, right? Because Instagram does run it, somewhat independently in terms of its decisions. And this is an Instagram app. It's not a Facebook app. It's and so on and so forth, right? This is an Instagram app that they tied it to. But tying to an open source platform like ActivityPub, the protocol, really does extend its abilities in a lot of ways. And that's what gives me solace in some way, shape, or form to the privacy issues, because once we're kind of available on the ActivityPub protocol, I don't see myself really using Threads as much as I see myself using my existing Mastodon, as well as I'm on multiple other Mastodon servers. I'm probably going to go to those, and then I can interact with threads there, and without the concerns about what Threads is collecting about me in some way, shape, or form. So flipping forward then to the social network issue, right, which is that you want to be utilizing social networking for productive purposes in your life. That could be entertainment. There's an entertainment value, right? That's a productive use of your time. There is connecting with family and friends in a particular way. You might be promoting yourself through your business and otherwise utilizing social networks and putting out social media. So utilizing a microblogging platform like Threads is akin to using Twitter, and quite honestly, I continue to use Twitter in a lot of ways. Even though it's a dumpster fire for other folks, I've curated over the last. I've been on Twitter for probably since 2009, something like that. So I've been on there a long time. I've curated a group of people that I enjoy interacting with. Most of that happens behind the scenes. I'm sending messages back and forth to folks behind the public sphere, and so I appreciate Twitter on that level. And until Twitter dies, I will probably still be involved on Twitter on some level, some way, shape, or form. I've been playing with Threads. It still lacks some features, but the more features it gets, the more appealing it looks to me in terms of things. I think the interface is clunky. The fact that I can't use the Threads environment on the desktop is just out the gate unproductive for me. I like to basically have a full keyboard and the ability to be able to do work on my desktop and for it to flow onto mobile. So there's that limitation as well. But back to the point, which is like...
But that's an Instagram thing. Instagram has been like that forever too.
Yeah, but they've now, you can do almost everything on the desktop now that you could do on Instagram, either through the Meta Business Suite or directly on Instagram.com. So there are very few limitations now to being able to post to Instagram on the desktop. I felt like they should have had Threads embrace that with a PWA or something else like that from the start. And I feel like they will get there, especially considering the ActivityPub and the Fediverse connection. So I'm hoping, I'm very hopeful that they'll go in that direction, especially if they plan to overtake Meta. I'm sorry, if they plan to overtake Twitter in that sense and in that space and place. That being the case, you use a social network for a purpose. Don't just jump on the bandwagon and start using Threads without a purpose. Think about why you're going to be using Threads. If you didn't use Twitter, why would you use Threads? Stay where you're currently on your social network. That's where I come at this from a productivity perspective. You really don't get any true benefit from joining Threads unless you're looking for a new community of people to interact and engage with. I don't quite yet understand how you do that, because I hashtag things. They're not really hashtags, and you can tag people, but you can't hashtag things. It doesn't seem like you can look for patterns of things other than by searching, and the search seems fairly just very broad, right? You're like, you want to be able to have kind of like in Instagram or Facebook or any place else like that. You kind of have that explore tab on Twitter where you can kind of see different topics, different communities of people coming together. You don't quite have that in Threads yet. I'm pretty sure they'll get there, but right now it seems just a little bit whatever. I created a few quote unquote threads, one message after another, trying to create a thread, and it didn't look like a thread. It looked like I had written 2 messages and then a reply to another, and I was like, no, it was supposed to be 3 messages in a row. Come on, get it right, Instagram. Right? So there's some limitations in terms of how the platform is really operating, and I think that it'll take a while for them to get those pieces up and running in that way. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Threads. Any additional thoughts, Augusto? And then I have just one announcement before we get on to the rest of our items.
Nope, that's all.
Okay, so I do want to just make a quick note that, and I'll put a link to the article in the announcements for everybody. But Evernote did lay off the rest of their American staff. That's inclusive of most of their developers that didn't move to Italy. But in essence, Bending Spoons, which purchased Evernote earlier this year, has decided to centralize all of their operations in Europe, and so they've decided to just get rid of the folks who were left. The probably just about 100 folks who are developers and otherwise in the States. And so this is just part of the consolidation. As an Evernote certified expert, I am saddened to see those people go, but this happens in business. It's just business. Nothing is happening to Evernote, the product, right? Evernote is going, as a software, is going to continue to grow, continue to be developed. All of those things are going to be fine. Pushing for updates and all of those kinds of things to all the things that we want Evernote to do. But I just wanted to make a note there that I'm sure many of you have heard, perhaps through the grapevine, through the Reddit vine, that Evernote had this round of layoffs. But I would say don't fear jumping ship from Evernote or anything like that for that reason. Right? You could leave Evernote for any other reason, but I wouldn't leave it just because they've consolidated their staff in Europe. That's a business decision, and not a bad business decision. It's a good business decision for Bending Spoons. It just happens to be a bad decision for the employees who are working in the States. And I'm sad with them. Launches over the years, but it is what it is. They can't fire me because I'm a volunteer. So that's part of the deal there. So, but I just wanted to let everybody know about that. On to what you've been reading and enjoying, Augusto.
So there is a couple of things. One is Canadian judge rules that the thumb up emoji count as a contract agreement. And there is a farmer in Canada who is paying a little bit over $62,000 Canadian for agreeing on a contract with an emoji. And it is interesting because it is the signs of times, digital signature and these things are going to come. So it is an interesting reading, especially if when you consider how careless sometimes we respond to things on the digital world. And the last thing is an article.
So I just want to point out one thing here. United States, President Clinton signed the Global e-Sign Act, and so just be very, very mindful of the fact that just because this is a Canadian judge here in the States, I don't know about anywhere else, but at least here in the States, it is well understood that if you agree to something via any digital means, text message, email, sign, you can sign by email in essence, and that doesn't mean you have to put a signature on paper. You can say, I agree to something via an email response, and that will count, as a contractual agreement of some kind. Talk to your lawyer, your own legal counsel. But Global e-Sign Act, piece of legislation it gives you the ability to accept contracts. So just be very, very mindful of that reality. Okay, on to your other article, Augusto.
So our last article is from Google Arts and Culture. They have unveiled Inside the Genius Mind of Leonardo da Vinci with participation or collaboration of 28 institutions. If you have time and you really want to be fascinated, it's not a quick view. It is not going to take you a couple of minutes. It takes the article read, I think, in 4. The rabbit holes takes a little bit longer, but it's very, very fascinating.
Fantastic. All right. And with that, we have reached the end of our time together. We've covered the productivity and related technology news this week. Thank you, Augusto, for curating our list of articles every week and putting it together for us to be able to do the show.
My pleasure.
All right. On anythingbutidle.com, you'll find our show notes. Those include the links to all our stories, the tools of the week, the extra stories that we didn't have time to cover. It also includes a text transcript for you to read and download offline if you need to. So you can click on the read more, it'll expand it right there on the page, or you can click on the PDF, it'll download it, and you can, of course, read along as you listen or watch the replay. If you look at the show notes and you want to contribute in some way, shape, or form, give feedback or otherwise, you can head over to anythingbutidle.com. Go to the episode page and you can go ahead and leave a comment right there on the page. If you want to interact with us and talk to us about things, you can go ahead and join Personal Productivity Club by going to www.personalproductivity.club. Go ahead and join the community, and there is an Anything But Idle community in the system. You can go ahead there. Actually, if you go to anythingbutidle.com/community, it'll take you directly to the sign up page to join the Anything But Idle group. So in there, you can go ahead and interact with us, share stories, talk about all those things together with us in the community. And that's the primary place where Augusto and I can integrate with you and interact with you. Feel free to, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, feel free to subscribe so you get the notification and automatic downloads of the new podcast. It's subscribe or follow in your favorite podcast app. But otherwise, with that, we will see you all next time on Anything But Idle. Here's to your productive life.